Mother reveals horrific injuries as she calls for a domestic abusers register. A mother who was savagely beaten by her boyfriend after he couldn't find his flip-flops has called for a change in the law on domestic violence. Carla Marsh was dragged by her hair, punched, kicked and spat at by her boyfriend, who she was unaware was a persistent abuser. The 32-year-old only discovered the truth about James Sullivan when it emerged in court that he had attacked a pregnant woman. Now she is saying there should be a sex offenders-style register so persistent offenders cannot continue to prey on women. Carla, who was left with nerve damage after the attack, said, "The justice system needs to change. It takes courage to report an abuser, but I don't feel James has been properly punished. That night, when he attacked me over some lost flip-flops, I actually thought to myself, maybe he should just kill me, that's the only way he'll stop. In my mind, there's no deterrent for prolific offenders. Something like a sex offenders-style register would at least allow police to monitor them, so they can't hide their pasts and prey on other vulnerable women." Sullivan, 38, was jailed for 18 months at Chelmsford Crown Court following the attack. The pair first spoke through a dating website and then met by chance when they found themselves in the same bar. The relationship started well and the account's manager recalled, "He seemed so funny. We were basically inseparable after that, always laughing and joking together. I really felt I could open up to and trust him. We actually even had a conversation about abusive men and he held such strong opinions. He said they were the lowest of the low, that he'd never do that." However, Sullivan eventually became controlling and would repeatedly accuse Carla of cheating on him. He refused to let her concentrate when she worked from home and would bombard her with texts and sulk if she took too long to reply. After every disagreement, he would then pepper his abuse with declarations of love, telling her he was only acting out as he could not handle the strength of his feelings for her. Sullivan banned her from using social media and she became increasingly isolated from her family. While he never threatened Carla's 10-year-old son, she still moved him in with his grandfather as a precaution. Carla said, "Every single day, he'd be abusive, calling me fat, ugly and weak. I got to the point where he'd kick off and I'd think, just get it over with and hit me." Making her stay at home until her bruises had healed after he was violent towards her, soon Sullivan started lashing out over tiny, insignificant things. Carla continued, "He'd lash out over anything. Once he started because he said I'd taken too long to get food, and another time he backhanded me over an email he'd seen from a male colleague, that was literally about expenses. Stolen kitten thrown out of car window and left to die. How to fake being ill for work like a pro bus and lorry crash injuring 16 people in major incident on A47. He constantly accused me of seeking out other guys. He wouldn't even let me open the door when we got a takeaway, as he didn't want me to talk to delivery men." His violent outbursts reached a head in November last year when he couldn't find his flip-flops. "I offered to go to town and buy him more," Carla recalled. "But as I went to get my coat, he grabbed me by the throat and dragged me along by the hair. He was punching me and spitting, then kicked me clean in the face. I was screaming at him, wondering if he was going to kill me. That was the only way I could see he'd ever stop. But he suddenly stopped for a few moments and backed away with his hands on his head." Seizing her chance, Carla bolted and raced to a neighbor's for help and then she phoned the police. Initially, she was too terrified to give them Sullivan's name, fearing he would hurt her or her son. But, after around a week, she realized he needed to be off the streets and mustered the courage to give a statement. "I realized he would never change. If I went back, everybody would be waiting for me to turn up dead," she said. That was a wake-up call. In court, Sullivan was labeled a serial domestic abuser as he was jailed for assault by beating. Carla, who is currently off work with post-traumatic stress disorder following the attacks, said, "I don't feel the effect this has had on me has been taken on board," she said. "An assault sounds like a one-time thing, like a drunken fight or something. On paper, it doesn't reflect the routine abuse he subjected me to. These offenses need to be taken more seriously, particularly in people like James, who keep doing it. I'd no idea about his previous convictions. In the early days of our relationship, I remember him once saying he was on a speed awareness course, which I now know was a domestic violence course. Justice needs to be served and the police need to be given more control over these domestic abusers. How many more women like me need to suffer before the laws changed? If you have a story for our news team, email us at webnews@metro.co.uk. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter.